Welcome back, guys, to the Kyle and Adam podcast, the Adam and Kyle podcast. We don't have a name, and
It's the I'm so Kyle jacked right now podcast. Everybody,
We
if
might-
you love that name,
have
let Kyle know, or we can have a vote. I'm sure some of you have some pretty creative ideas too.
As of now, these are only going on to YouTube. We're going to figure out where this is going to go. We're not sure if it's going to go as a extension of the Harder to Kill podcast or whatever. What we're concerned about right now is just getting the content and information out there.
Yeah.
So we got some feedback from last episode. People seem to enjoy it. Like I talked about, I think we have a cool dynamic here, being that Adam's just the curious kid who just wants to know what the hell is going on.
I just
around here.
wandered into a room. I want to know what everybody's doing. It's very interesting.
He walked into the gym. He's confused but intrigued.
Yeah.
But no, we're going to start off with just talking about, we got some housekeeping we're going to take care of.
All of the stuff that I walked in just now and hammered him with. He's going to.
Adam did bring in quite the housekeeping list. We're going to breeze through it really quick. One is school's out. Hours are changing, not for us, our hours aren't changing, but people's schedules are changing and whatnot, and that could potentially lead to just different classes becoming more busy, which is great. Just a reminder to reserve your classes ahead of time. It gives the coach a heads up of who's going to be in class. They can kind of start planning the class better based off of how big it is and who is in there, right? Most coaches have a pretty good idea of your capabilities. They might start thinking about scaling options, and just it's going to give everybody an overall better experience if you are reserving your classes ahead of time. Not to mention the aspect of, if you know your schedule and you sit down Sunday night and you say, I'm going to this class, this class, this class, and this class, you schedule them ahead of time, you're more apt to show up to those classes.
Or you can see when your friends are going to be here and make sure that's the class you go to.
Just go to your friend's class. It's whatever. As long as you show up, we're happy. And then I'll take that as an opportunity to remind people that we do have a new childcare schedule starting next week. We have our normal childcare of Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 8:30 class, and then we are starting Tuesday, Thursday for 4:30 class. So giving you guys some more options for childcare classes.
And that's an all-day childcare throughout the summer. I just want to make sure
It's going to be just the hour that the class is going on.
1 hour.
Yeah, and I will take that. Yeah, so also it is for people taking class. So if you have errands to run from 4:30 to 5:30, you can't drop your kids off, go to Hy-Vee, and then come back and get them. You must be participating in the class that is going on from 4:30 to 5:30.
Huh.
Crazy, huh?
That's interesting. It's your gym.
Okay.
It's his gym. I don't know.
It's not how Adam would have done things, but it's how we're going to run things.
All right.
And then the last thing we're going to talk about in housekeeping is
Bicycles.
bikes.
Yeah. Outdoors.
We had a good time riding. I just made a big long post about them, so it was a lot of fun riding them outside. I recommend that you get yourself a quality bike. If you need assistance with that, talk to me. John also knows quite a bit about bicycles. Talk to him. We have bikes in our shipping container that can be borrowed, but ultimately it'd be great for you to have your own high quality bike.
So there'll be bikes in the programming.
Yes.
From time to time.
It will never be a required thing.
Okay.
It's always going to be like we programmed yesterday, where you have a outside bike option. I would even venture to, I would even say the main workout is always going to be something that can be done inside with a C2 bike. And then you kind of have an option of taking it outside. Outside biking, depending on the route and what kind of bike you're running, can definitely be just as intense. I would say generally it's going to be a little bit easier, maybe a little bit more fun. So it's a great opportunity to maybe bring your intensity down a little bit for that day.
Yeah.
If we're typically programming them on Thursdays, which is a little bit of a back off day for this block anyway.
If you're going to ride your bike, wear bright clothing, bring your helmet.
Yeah.
Get a helmet.
We are going to push the helmets a little bit more. I did that last year, and I failed to do that for our first one yesterday. But yes, helmets are going to be strongly encouraged. I want to say required, but at the end of the day, I'm not able to enforce that.
Plus, I've seen some of the members' heads are so huge that
they don't make helmets for
There's no-
that size. So you would just think the protection's already there because of how big the head is.
massive dome.
big old melon. So if that's you, you know.
No, but bright clothes help too.
Just be smart with what you're wearing, right?
Yeah.
We're going to try to keep us off of busy roads, but
Use the trail.
Right. And I was telling people, when you get on Highway 22 on the shoulder, haul ass. Get your ass to that trail as fast as possible because you minimize the time that you're on the road.
It's not far, but it's the only section that can be dangerous.
Just heads up with that stuff.
All right, is that all the housekeeping?
I think so. It felt like when you walked in here earlier, it felt like you had a list of housekeeping, but I think we just got through it.
I made him promise that we were done with sleds after, I think it was Tuesday, we used sleds, and you said that we wouldn't use them again till Labor Day.
That is a false statement.
We can edit that part out. We have an excellent.
We don't have the ability to edit. I just got this really crazy feeling that the camera's not running, so I'm going to go double check it, but I'm like 100% sure. By 100, I mean 99. Yeah, we're good.
That's,
just freak yourself out.
These are some of the things that we're still working through.
Yeah. Well, we never recorded before.
Yeah,
we've never done video before, like besides the first one, but like Shannon and I, we never did that, so. Okay, so then let's dive into the meat and potatoes. Programming.
I got to start with one thing. So with the programming, I just found out on Tuesday that L-sits is an entirely different concept and idea from what my kids are always telling me when it comes to hold this L. It's different. When they mean something entirely different than what you did when you told us to hold this L. Apparently it's take a loss, or they hang it above my head.
Is that a thing? I might be out of the lingo on that.
Yeah, so
hold an L.
Hold this L is different in the gym than maybe it is with your kids if you have those.
Gotcha. I see. I don't know the lingo.
L sits.
L sits.
I loved them.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So where do we start with the program? Okay. So I want to say, this isn't going to be only a programming and like training specifically in the gym podcast, but being that where we're at in our programming right now, we just finished up a block that we recapped last week, and now we're starting a new one. So we are going to have 2 back-to-back programming episodes.
It's just a good time for you to tell us what's coming up and what we're doing since we're moving into a new period.
Right. And I said this last week. The goal is to provide more value so that you can get more out of that training block. It's actually one of the reasons that we'll do like a primer week is I have a pretty good idea of what the next training block is going to be. And then the primer week lets me kind of put it to the test and see how that actually plays out in class with a wide variety of people. And then I can start making adjustments to the actual block. And we can talk about some of those adjustments that I've made. But
here's a good chance for me to ask what I would consider maybe a dumb question, but was that what this was, these last 4 days since Memorial Day? Was a primer week?
It was a primer week, exactly, meaning that what we did this week is a good indicator of what we will be doing this next block, which we're about to talk about specifically. Unfortunately, well, shouldn't say unfortunately, but Memorial Day in Murph was awesome, but we weren't able to get our Monday primer day in.
Sure.
So our actual
holiday week.
Yeah, our actual first Monday will be part of the training.
That's why I started with the L-sits. That's something that we hadn't been doing that we started with, and so a lot of us found it difficult, yet I think enjoyable.
Yeah, just something different and very challenging. Like if you do those things correctly, your triceps are cramping up.
And there's a version for every type of member all the way from.
And it's actually one of the things I made a small change on too. So why don't we just start, let's start with Monday, since we kind of had to miss it. We'll give some information on what we're going to be doing on Mondays.
Great.
But we are going to be back squatting on Mondays for hypertrophy or muscular endurance, more so than strength.
So kind of a gas feel.
It's going to be kind of gassy. Your legs are going to be burning. We just came off of a moderate volume front squat block where the goal was to improve that 7-rep max front squat. But this is going to be even higher volume than that, and it's going to be more focused on endurance. So next Monday, we will start that, and it's going to be a set of 6, a set of 8, a set of 10, a set of 12, and a set of 14.
Wow, that's high reps.
It is pretty high reps, and the way that'll work is you'll start with a moderate heavy load for the 6, which 6 isn't a ton. Then you'll take a little weight off and hit the 8, take a little weight off, hit the 10. So you are going to be dropping down in weight as you go, but 14 reps of any weight is going to be challenging.
Well, I think for most members, it might be difficult to even try to anticipate what that number might be.
100%. I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm going to encourage people to be quite conservative on this first one. We will be doing, the structure of it is you're completing a set every 4 minutes. So for that first set of 6 and that set of 8, that's only going to take you 30 seconds or so. But by the time you get into that like 10,
yeah, that's
12,
where I'm at mentally right now with it.
Right. So I am going to strongly encourage the set of 6 and the set of 8. You can push the weight on a little bit. When you start getting into that 10, 12, and 14, you got to set the ego aside, and you need to just think about what the intent of the workout is. And it is to get a good leg burn.
Yeah, let those legs shake, baby.
But you should be so far from failure.
Yeah.
You might be, maybe you're somebody who can back squat 285 pounds. For that set of 12 and 14, you might be down to 100.
You're talking to me.
Whatever. You might be down pretty light. But the cool thing is, with the block training that we do, the next Monday, we'll be doing something similar.
Yeah.
And you can dial it in a little bit.
Well, a lot
more.
of us, I think we know from all of our experience with your programming that, that next week, maybe we'll be 10 pounds better than we were the week before.
And I think it's especially important this coming week, because we did not have the opportunity to do the primer week on it this time. So your first dose of it is going to be kind of, it is what it is. And most people will figure it out. But biggest tip is just be conservative with it.
So be here Monday.
So show up on Monday. We're squatting. That L-sit that you've come to love already.
Yeah.
That will be floating around Monday or Tuesday. So like next week, we actually are going to do it on Monday. And I've made a little bit of a change in the way I'm going to program that L-sit, because of just what I saw seeing it this week. We're actually going to prioritize the upper body aspect of it with the support hold. Meaning, if you found it challenging to just hold your body weight up for the L-sit portion, we're actually going to take a step back and we're going to build that strength up first. So I have level 1, so I think I broke it down into 4 levels for the L-sit. Level 1 is going to be using a pair of dip bars. So like the detachable dip bars. You can also put some GHDs close. There's several ways to do it, but we want a nice stable surface where your wrist can be neutral.
Okay.
And you're going to be looking to do 30 to 45 second holds in a hollow body. So basically just think holding yourself at the top of a dip right there. And we're just going to focus on that straight arm strength, locking the triceps out, and holding a neutral spine.
And that'll help folks progress into what's the next?
Yeah,
the
so what it's
ability
going
to
to
raise our feet.
Exactly. It's going to build the shoulder and upper back muscles to be able to support your body weight for 30 plus seconds. You will be getting some abs involved because you're holding that good hollow body position, but I just want people who struggle to hold their body weight for 30 seconds or so to build that strength first. I think you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck there. Then the progression is pretty simple. Once you're able to hold yourself up for at least 30 seconds, now we're going to start bringing the legs up.
Okay, one leg.
Well, it might be, I think the first progression is bringing both knees to hip height.
Okay.
That's progression 1. Then progression, technically 2. So we have 1 is hold your body weight. 2 is hold your body weight, bring your knees up. 3 is hold your body weight, bring your knees up, then extend one leg. And then 4 is hold your body weight, bring your knees up, extend both legs. Yeah. It is important to when you go from that supported knee raise position, we want to make sure that when you start to go for the one leg hold, that you're actually getting that one leg perfectly straight. Like, let me demo. This is the advantage of the camera.
I think I know what you mean. Some of us are starting to tip over and lose stability.
Right. That, and maybe, we don't want one leg out in front with a bent knee. We really want to be pointing the toes and flexing the quad. I heard so many people talk about their quads cramping up while trying to hold that. So what we would do, if you're doing 4 sets of L-sits, the first round, you'd bring both knees up, extend your left leg, point the toe, flex the quad, hold, bring it down. Then the next round, you would do the right leg. And that way you can kind of focus on both hip flexors, building some strength there. Yeah. But I was blown away. I did that on Tuesday. My upper back and traps and triceps were smoked the next day.
Yeah.
I was more
serious
sore.
arm fatigue.
It is one of those movements. It seems like we have one every block that you get out of that movement what you put into it. Like if you, for lack of a better term, phone it in, you're not going to get much out of it.
Right. You've got to put the work in.
If you really focus on it and do, I don't care if you do the easiest version of it, but if you do that easiest version correct and you're bringing
you give it your best,
you're going to get a lot out of it.
And you'll get on to the next progression of that movement.
And I've talked to some people about this that admittedly tell me like, oh, you know, when I'm not confident in the movement or I'm not good at it, I'm more apt to just phone it in. And I'm like, well, like I appreciate your honesty, and it's huge to know that about yourself.
Yeah.
But it's something to work on.
And I think this is a good time to transition to sleds, and this is why, because
because it's your thing.
Well, I dislike them.
Yeah.
And I think that you know that. I will crack jokes at everybody's expense when it comes to sleds, but you know the wide range of our abilities and when it comes to those, along with any movement really. But you know, we have the ability to add weight, take weight off, change, drop the distance, increase the distance.
There's a lot of variables that can be adjusted.
Right. So we're going to be outside with sleds.
Yes. So Tuesdays are going to be mostly a posterior chain day. So I'm not going to pigeonhole myself to it always being sleds and deadlifts, but it will be something that is going to be similar to that stuff.
What else could it be then?
Sleds and like hip extensions or
but things in that category.
Yeah, things in that category. I have sleds and deadlift programmed again for this next week, and then I'm going to kind of reassess. It might stay that way for a little bit, or it might just be a variation of the deadlift. Like we've been doing the dead stop deadlift. That could progress to like an RDL. It could progress to a touch and go deadlift, possibly lunging and sled pushing. How terrible does that sound?
Like we could maybe at some point become the Jamaican bobsled team.
Possibly.
Let's take all that sled talk, get rid of that, and move on to what's a lot more fun. Today, Olympic lifts.
Oh, okay. Well, so that was Tuesday. Let's go.
Okay, I don't want to jump ahead too far. But sleds I don't like. Today
he doesn't even want to talk about sleds.
Anybody who was here today, that was fun. It was difficult.
Yeah.
So I was trying to skip ahead to that, but go ahead.
Let me talk about the posterior a little bit more. To answer your question, we'll most likely be sticking to something like sleds and deadlifts, maybe lunging and sleds, but we'll start mixing up the variation. So these first 2 weeks were pretty specific on that march, where we're really trying to drive through the heel. That won't always be the case. At some point, we're going to be able to move the sleds a little faster, go a little heavier, maybe lighter, longer distance. We'll keep some variance in there so that it's not just every Tuesday. It's dead stop deadlifts and a slow sled push. So we'll start adding in some variance there. Wednesday. Before you like the overhead pressing,
that was fun.
And you had brought this up. We spent 1 day a week last block doing some strict press.
Right.
And like you said,
it's kind of bled into this next block.
It has.
But let me just add this part. It felt a lot different this time.
Good observation, right? So the last block we were really focused on the strength aspect of the strict press. We're just trying to build pure overhead pressing strength. This block will be quite different. On Wednesday, in the primer week, we did some strict press, some push press, and then some push jerks. With the primary focus being the way those reps broke down, is we really wanted to help people start differentiating between those 3 presses. So you can think of those 3 presses as the 3 types of presses that we do here.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have other variations, but those are the 3 main presses.
And I think for me, differentiating the movements is easy enough. Sometimes it's the terminology and nailing the terms for each one. I might call the push jerk the push press or vice versa, and that's a struggle for a lot of us.
And that's okay, and that's also something we are going to talk about for like today's workout, the complexes. Well, maybe we just dive into that right now.
Yeah, hit it.
Yeah. So I was thinking about it today because like I said, for the Olympic lifting complexes that we're going to be seeing on Friday, it is the same thing where you have somebody who's, I put you in this camp. You're confident in the movement itself. But if I was like, Adam, what's the name of the movement you're doing? You might double guess yourself.
Yeah.
You right?
Double twist Kyle Jack lift.
So that's a much better spot to be. I'd much rather have you be confident in the movement itself and then just struggle with the name.
Yeah, most of us show us and we'll do it.
Right. Now, obviously, it would be great if I could get you to be super confident and knowledgeable in all the terminology. That'd be great, and it'll happen over time as you. But you do have to be paying attention.
Sure.
You do have to be wanting to learn it.
Willing.
Yeah, and having to be like, okay, so it says this, or maybe it's the night before you come to class, you look at the programming and be like, what's the push press again? YouTube, push press. And you know what I mean? So you have to be wanting to learn that and kind of seeking it out a little bit. So with the example of the strict press, and push jerk, those are kind of our three main presses, and we're going to be doing at least two of them together.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. So there won't always be three, but some combination
probably always at least two, right? Because the goal is to help you learn, and it'll always be either a strict press and then a push press, or a push press and then a push jerk.
And we can look forward to the structure being lighter, more reps,
especially earlier in this block. The goal is to get a lot of reps in so that you can get lots of practice reps in. And because we're doing a lot of reps just naturally, we have to keep it lighter. So for example, on Wednesday, we did 7 sets of that complex, 4 strict press, 5 push press, 6 push jerks. So you had 15 reps times 7 sets to practice.
And what was that, every 2.5 minutes?
Every 3 minutes we did a set. Yep. So you had, what is that, 15 times 7? 90 or something, a lot of reps. You had a lot of opportunity to practice. If I would have programmed that as every 3 minutes you do 2 strict press, 2 push press, and 2 push jerks, you definitely could have gone heavier.
Everyone would have.
But you're only getting 6 practice reps. And with the goal being to practice the movement, I'm not really concerned about the strength.
So our goal is to become proficient in these lifts.
Then we ramp it up. Exactly. So early on in this block, it's going to be high volume. And for a brand new person, it's perfect because it allows you lots of practice reps. It might be with a training bar with no weight on it, but it's lots of practice reps. For a more experienced person who is very confident in the movement itself and the terminology, and they know exactly what they're doing, it's going to be a great muscular endurance session.
Right.
Like you probably felt on Wednesday.
It was fun.
You didn't need a lot of weight to get that feeling out of it too.
Yep.
So long story short, early on in the block, it is going to be, I don't want to say ridiculously.
But we'll get heavier as it goes. How long is this block going to be?
We'll be about 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I kind of always have, so we almost always do like 6 or 7 week blocks. And I typically have the first 2 weeks pretty much set in stone. And then I take kind of how it is progressing and I watch people and I see people's scores and I see
it's not all predetermined.
And then on week 3 or on week 2, I kind of collect that data and I'm like, okay, week 3, I'm seeing the issue that 90% of the gym is really struggling with the difference between a push press and a push jerk. So this week, rather than ramping up the load of it, we're going to do a drill or a strength or a skill session that's going to address that because I see an overwhelming amount of people who are struggling with this thing. And to me, that's just logical. Rather than having a 6-week block completely planned out and being like, nope, we got to stick to the plan, when the majority of the gym is struggling with one aspect of it, it's like we got to pivot and get people up to where they need to be.
And I think that's a lot of why I wanted, you to talk to all of us like this, is so that we can.
And it also,
when there is a big issue like that, when you're, a 90% or 80% issue, a lot of members, then you can get in here and tell us, and we'll fix it, and then we'll all be so jacked.
I felt that one coming.
You knew it was.
It also could be the reason why sometimes when people ask me about like, hey, are we doing this again next week? I might not be like, yes, we are. It's kind of like, let me think on it a little bit because it might be something that's kind of in a gray area. So let's just go straight to Friday with that because it's a lot of similar takeaways. Fridays, we will be doing an Olympic lifting complex. So for those of you who don't know, and maybe you don't even know this, like Olympic lifting refers to the snatch and the clean and jerk.
Right, I do know that.
Okay, so you have 2 lifts. You have the snatch, barbell going from the ground to overhead in one fluid motion, Then you have the clean and jerk, barbell going from the ground to the shoulder, stop, barbell going from shoulder to overhead.
If you watch weightlifting on TV, it's probably these movements.
Yeah, probably. At the Olympics, it is
Absolutely.
these movements. It is
Right.
Olympic weightlifting. So and these lifts are done at the Olympic level as 1 reps only. You only do 1 rep. One rep max snatch, 1 rep max clean and jerk. Well,
We did more than that.
we did. Here's the thing. To be able to get much out of doing 1 rep max snatch, 1 rep max clean and jerks, you need to be pretty damn proficient at those movements. But to get something out of doing maybe 4 or 5 reps in a row, you can have a lot more leniency. So something like today. So with the complexes, if you're extremely, extremely proficient, you might be able to push the loads on it a bit. For the 95%
Me and
of
many
the rest of
others.
the gym, you're probably not going to need a lot of load to make these challenging because they're very position
Yeah.
dependent.
This morning I was adding, 2.5 pounds on a side, 5 pounds on a side when I got to a working weight. Because like you said, just
Right.
small adjustments made a lot of difference, especially when you're talking about putting a bar above your head with significant weight on it.
Right. And I cannot stress enough, and it sounds cliche, but like there's no other way to word it, is you have to pay attention to the quality of your movement and your technique in these lifts to progress them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how purely strong you get. You can deadlift 500 pounds, you can back squat 500 pounds, you can bench press 350 pounds, but if you don't actually practice and try to move better and hold better positions in something like the snatch and clean and jerk, you will not be able to lift relatively heavy weight.
And I'm guessing that's why you incorporate pieces of it, like just the front squat alone in
Right.
the movement, so that we're
So-
separating and paying attention to each part of the movement.
Yes, and I was like, well, look at it like this. You have, let's say you can, okay, you're a perfect example. Let me pick on you a little bit because you really are a great example here. Remind me again, you did a 7 rep max front squat of like 205-ish?
Yeah, for 7 reps. Yeah.
What's your 1 rep max front squat? Maybe you don't know. You've got a lot.
I really don't know.
It's more than 205.
Yeah, less than 300.
Okay, so let's say it's probably pretty safe bet if you did 205 for 7, you could do 225 for 1.
Yeah.
So why can't you clean 225? Can you deadlift 225?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's me picking on you, but not really. It's just like, I'm
No,
really just more
I
providing
understand.
okay, so if you can deadlift definitely more than 225 and you can front squat 225, what is the missing piece? And it just allows us to start breaking it down. Well, is it positions of the clean from the floor? Do you try to pull too early? We can at least start breaking it
support
down.
muscles and things too. That the progression involves using other parts and
The pull, the timing, the rhythm. That's why they're challenging lifts
timing
to
and
learn,
rhythm.
because there's time.
That's a big part of
There's
it.
timing and rhythm. Take that bar from a rack, front squat 225, no problem, right? It's a simpler version. So it's like, take someone like you who definitely has the strength to clean 225. And I'm not saying you're not paying attention to your technique and rhythm, or technique, timing, and rhythm, all that type of thing. It's just, to me, it proves my point of how much you actually have to pay attention to it.
That's where I was going to go with it. It's not, and this is for everybody. A lot of us are doing this. We have so many things to focus on when it comes to an Olympic movement or any of these movements that are advanced.
Yeah.
Or that I consider to
Oh,
be
they're definitely advanced.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, like today, I'm putting, a considerable amount of weight above my head. I have to be conscious of that, so
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about my feet placement and everything else that goes along with it.
And that's honestly,
And
that's,
you're coming around and critiquing us on
and that's
the,
all I ask.
Yeah.
All I ask is that you're paying attention to those things you just said.
Yeah.
And you do not have to make improvement. You don't have to go from novice to expert today.
Yeah.
But when you're doing these types
or
of
even
lifts,
in this block.
or even in this block, or honestly, even in this year.
Just
Like,
get uncomfortable a little bit, push yourself a little bit
Just-
past what's fun.
Here would be my kind of litmus test for this would be, if I come around to you and I say, Adam, what are you focusing on this lift? You should be able to give me something.
Yeah.
Like a little something like, oh, hey, I noticed last rep, I was putting the bar overhead, but I wasn't really finishing
Locking
my
it out.
head through. I noticed that, or John told me that, or whatever. this rep, I'm really going to focus on that. Or maybe I'm really going to focus on making sure I use my hips and jump before I press.
Yeah.
And
get that good pop.
If you don't have something that you're specifically focusing on, that's where you can bounce it off a coach. Be like, hey, I don't really know what I should be focusing on.
Right.
And I might give you the most, depending on your skill level, I might give you the most simple thing. I had someone this morning at 8:30 who the only thing I cared about is, hey, let's make sure on that squat clean. Because what they were doing is they were doing a really good job of the thruster and the 2 front squats, but on the squat clean, they wouldn't squat below parallel.
Oh.
I'm like, it's the only thing I care about. Just make sure we
focus
squat
on
below.
that one
We'll
piece.
focus on that one thing, and we'll put the rest together later.
Yeah.
But if you are focused on 7 different things, chances are you're not really making as much progress on one thing that could really help you.
And I think just acknowledging that it's difficult.
It's difficult.
There's a lot
Yes.
to do, and that's why there's no rush to become an Olympic weightlifter. This block, we'll all get our chance to make the United States team at some point in our lives.
It'll be fine.
Right.
But no, I think that's a good time to talk about Olympic lifting. Is like, it is extremely difficult, but you're here to do difficult things and learn things.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's no expectation for you to get it right away, but there is expectation for you to, you've signed up for this type of program.
Yeah.
This is kind of what separates us from other general fitness things. Have you seen the meme of, it's like a bunch of ladies in a class and they're all hooked up to trampolines and bungee cords. I mean, not trampolines. They're all hooked up to bungee cords.
Okay.
And they're they jump and the bungee cords pull them and they have sticks in their hands and they're drumming. And it's like a fitness class.
Okay.
And the meme is just middle-aged white women will literally do anything except work out normal.
Yeah.
You know what and you get the joke, right? It's
me being a middle-aged white woman, totally get it.
There's a lot of people that are looking for the easy thing to do.
Yeah.
They're looking to go sit in a chair and hit a drum with sticks. I think that was a thing called Pound Fit. Yeah. And God, yeah, you can bring it back.
All the gimmick fitness is out there.
All the gimmick fitness things. But it's just hey, squat below parallel with a bar in the front, an empty bar in the front rack, and you struggle with it.
Uncomfortable.
It's just man, if you can convince people to just do a basic thing like a front squat really freaking well, my chest is up, my elbows are through, my knees are tracking over my toes.
Then we're already most of the way there.
You're so much farther than hitting drums with a stick.
Well, they're a lot further down the road than they would even realize by just working on that one thing.
That's a good way to put it.
Any one thing.
You take somebody who learns to do a hang power snatch with an empty barbell. In this it's unfortunate that this is the case and kind of just human nature. Somebody doing a very basic hang power snatch with an empty barbell doesn't realize how well they're actually doing.
Yeah.
And when I bring up this environment is
everybody
because
gets that.
There's a lot of people, they're using their empty bar and they're snatching and it looks good, but right behind them, you got the person who's been here for 8 years snatching 225.
And just clanging weights.
And they're just oh my God, I'm only using the empty barbell. And it's man, I can't tell you how much I don't care about the load on the bar.
Nobody does.
If you are moving well, I'm so happy.
Yeah, and all of us are too. That's the thing, just getting in here.
Everybody's capable of moving well. It has nothing to do with your fitness or strength. It just has to do with your ability to, maybe you do something you just record yourself and you see, oh wow, my elbows really are dropping as I get to the bottom of that front squat. I'm going to go do another set and I'm going to focus on just that.
That one thing.
Just that one thing. And you do that a little bit every day across a year. It is mind-blowing how much.
I think that's a good thing for you to close with us on for this time. Is just leave people with that. Focus on one thing. Mm-hmm. Work on it. Put your mind to it when you're in here or whatever you're working on, and that'll help get us to where we're going.
Yeah. Once again, it's cliche, but just be happy.
Everything is though. All of the fitness terms,
the things that work.
Any of the things that it's going to seem so cliche and generic, and anytime we say one, you're going to laugh at us.
It's funny too because I'll have people who get on the other side of this where I'm saying something dude, you have to figure out how to be super happy with the smallest little wins. And then 3 years later, maybe that doesn't click right away, but eventually it does. And then it's oh, damn, that made perfect sense, but it is very cliche.
Yeah, it's a doorway you walk through and you look through and you want to pull people through
yeah,
it as
we
well.
talked about
I feel like I
last
just
week.
went, and you can't take back the days you didn't do it in the past, but you can control today and tomorrow.
They're little investments. They're little investments that are just going to compound over time.
Yeah, pay your dues.
So that is pretty much the training block. Just quick recap: muscular endurance, back squats on Monday, posterior sled push, lunge.
Day off Tuesday.
We're going overhead on Wednesday.
Good times.
Thursdays are going to be a wild card.
Maybe some cardio days like we've done before.
Some cardio type days, yeah. So I would say it's going to be more of a bitch work style for this block, specifically because of the amount of lifting we're doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the complex is on Friday.
Yeah.
Probably throwing in another strength day on Thursday isn't necessary.
Yep.
Maybe some skill, some cardio, that type of stuff. And then Saturdays will pretty much be
partner workouts.
Partner workouts for the most part. We are going to have a little bit of like
teams of 20.
Push pull.
Stay tuned for that. Teams of 20.
Bench press, strict pull-ups, teams of 20 conditioning.
Yeah. Human bench press as well. So
you will be bench pressing.
I'm creating workouts as we go, and they're only going to be on Saturdays at the 10 o'clock class.
Oh, the 10 o'clock, the Adam Coach 10 o'clock class. Very exclusive.
Yeah.
So, anything else we want to talk about for this one?
Nope. Just thanks for explaining all that stuff. I think you answered a lot of questions that I had, and hopefully a lot that everyone else did.
Yeah.
And hopefully, maybe we'll come back in a week or two, see where we're at with this.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to expand.
Or talk about something entirely different.
That's what I was going to say. Like, we did a couple of training because I think it was timely, but we could talk about more of a broad subject or whatever, or, maybe you guys have some questions. Let us know. If there's like a certain topic or something you would like us to dive into, let us know. See you.